Okay, folks. Let me just. Sorry about this. I was having a couple of technical difficulties. All right, folks. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, when or wherever you are. Okay. Today, I decided to make a stream. We will be looking into. Sorry, this camera is thrilled. We are going to go into some news in Euronews, and then we are going to talk about it. So, without further ado, let's just start.
Good morning, it's Friday, the 8th of May. This is Europe Today, and I'm Marit Gwyn, coming to you live from Brussels with the news and analysis to start your day. Coming up today, in a call with the European Commission chief overnight, US President Donald Trump threatened much higher tariffs on the EU unless the bloc slashes tariffs on US goods to 0% by the 4th of July. The pressure is on for the EU to push its embattled trade deal with the US over the line. We'll have the details. And the US says it has struck Iranian military sites following an exchange of fire in the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran says civilian areas have been hit, but President Trump claims the ceasefire is still in effect. Meanwhile, Israeli and Lebanese officials are set to hold further talks next week as the ceasefire in Lebanon falters. In other news, Ukraine's top negotiator Rustem Umerov is in Miami to meet with Trump's envoys after weeks of stalled progress in US-brokered peace talks. It comes as Moscow's unilaterally announced ceasefire is supposed to take effect and after Russia broke the longer truce proposed by Ukraine. President Zelensky has warned other states not to send their representatives to the parade in Moscow on Saturday. But first this morning to our top story, European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen and President Trump held a call last night amid rising transatlantic trade tensions. Trump has issued an ultimatum, adding pressure on EU negotiators to push the trade deal with the US over the line. For more, I'm joined by our correspondent, Stefan Grobe. Good morning, Stefan.
Good morning, Marit.
So Trump is clearly not happy with the Europeans. What's at stake here?
Yeah, he's losing patience on this one. It was somewhat in the air after we've heard similar statements from members of his administration in the days before. Now, here's what he said verbatim in his social media post. I've been waiting patiently for the EU to fulfill their side of the historic trade deal we agreed in Turnberry, Scotland, the largest trade deal ever. I agreed to give until our country's 250th birthday, or unfortunately, their tariffs would immediately jump to much higher levels. Of course, the deal is lopsided and controversial, especially in the European Parliament. It's zero tariffs on US exports going to Europe and 15% on European products going to America. That's why negotiations between the EU institutions have been tough so far and are still ongoing before the deal can be approved by the Parliament. The main sticking point here being the demand to insert safeguards in case Trump breaches the joint commitments or threatens the bloc's territorial integrity, as he did when he threatened to forcefully seize Greenland from Denmark. The problem, of course, is, Maeve, that no one in Europe believes that this is a good deal for us.
But still a looming threat of 25% tariffs on EU cars, that could be a big blow, especially to the German car industry.
Well, it would be a pretty nasty blow. That's correct. It would probably not destroy the European car industry, but it could accelerate a major shift towards a relocation of industrial capacity away from Europe. Now, not all German car makers would be equally exposed. BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen, they all run major plants in the US, and Trump himself has said that vehicles made in US factories would avoid tariffs. But Audi and Porsche would be very vulnerable. They could lose market share, their profit margins would shrink, and they could be forced to relocate their production to America. And this is exactly what Trump wants. That could lead, of course, to further weakening Germany's car industry and Germany's industrial base, and also put pressure on its suppliers in Eastern Europe. And then the question is, what would the EU do? Would it retaliate, and how? So the prospect of a trade war, major trade war with the US is certainly on the horizon here.
Okay, Stefan, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on that. Now we're moving on. The EU's defence chief, Andrius Kubilius, will visit Poland and his native Lithuania today to sign defence loan deals, collectively to the tune of 50 billion euros. The aim is to strengthen these nations' defences, and the loans are part of the EU's 150 billion euro defence programme known as SAFE. Poland will be the biggest beneficiary of the programme. Our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins, is here and spoke to Commissioner Kubilius just before he set off. Angela, good morning, good to see you. Tell us first, what will this money, when will it flow and what will it be spent on?
Good morning, Marid. So the less juicy details first. 15% of the cash is expected to be dispersed by the end of the month to both Poland and Lithuania. The rest of the money should flow every 6 months, dependent on whether these countries adhere to the European Commission's rules. Now, this is, of course, part of the EU's big pitch to ensure the continent is fighting fit and can repel any foreign aggression, namely Russia. Poland is expected to receive the biggest envelope of cash. We're talking about 43 billion euros. They want to beef up their anti-drone defence systems as well as that eastern flank. So that's the land border between Poland and Belarus. Lithuania is expected to receive a smaller parcel of money, 6 billion euros, but they really want to amp up their land forces and buy ammunition as well as mines. 18 member states applied for this loan program, including Hungary. We know that the incoming Prime Minister, Peter Magyar, wants to put this on the back burner. However, I did manage to speak to the European Commissioner for Defence, Andrius Kubilius, before he took off to Poland and Lithuania today. I asked him about the significance of inking these deals.
And it's very symbolic that we are doing that in Poland, because Poland is the country which is taking the biggest responsibility on the biggest amount of those loans, 42.7, if I am correct, billion euros. It's also very symbolic that we're doing that on Victory Day, showing really that we're ready, to deter and to defend ourselves. And it's again very symbolic that we're doing that in, just before Europe's Day, because this mechanism of safe loans is really based on basic principles of European Union, on solidarity principles.
What is Europe protecting itself from? What is the money going to be used for?
Well, definitely, in Europe we see very clearly that possibility of Russian aggression against the EU.
Let me just pause here to say a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to comment on the first part of the news, okay? Today we are going to watch 2 news blogs and maybe a couple of videos more, and we are going to talk about it, because this is very important, and there is a reason why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because there are a lot of people, especially in the United States, that don't watch European news, okay? They don't watch what is happening across the world, and I think it's important for them to have a perspective on what is happening here. I go to Democrat YouTubers and other channels, and most of them do not have a faintest idea of what is happening around here in Europe. Now, this is very important. First of all, sorry, hello Vertigo. Hope everything is all right, and hello to anyone that is looking in the chat. Now, and yes, I will go to Finland, okay, my friend. I'm just going to talk about this specific area of Europe, Poland, because I think this is very important. Now, Poland has a direct border with Russia also, and it's in Central Europe. Okay, you have Königsberg, that the Soviets stole and transformed into Kaliningrad, and you have Belarus. And the Baltics, they also have a direct border with Russia. And it's important that the greatest effort in terms of defenses should be concentrated in the south to Ukraine and in the central part of our European continent into Poland. Because whoever wants to invade Europe, they will have to pass by Poland first. So it's only fair that a large quantity of this of the money that has been allocated to subsidize and rearm Europe, it has to go there. Okay, it would not make any sense to have the same type of investment, say for example in Portugal, unless we become clearly threatened by the United States. Then in that case, the defense of Europe will begin in Greenland and in the Azores Islands. Okay, but that is for another video and another dissertation about that subject. That is also very interesting, and that I feel like we are going to have to discuss in the future. But continuing, all over Europe, this rearming has been processing itself in a way that I don't think Americans really understand. Pardon me. Because they see this as a lot of people talking. Because they cannot understand the way that politics are made here. People here discuss things. Okay? The people here discuss things. People here talk. And people here, they decide things in a way that everyone is on board. Okay, this is why all of this question with Hungary and now this arising issue in Bulgaria. Sorry, let's see if this does not, if Bulgaria does not transform into another bloody Hungary of Orban. All of this has to be addressed, and we need to have this strength, we need to have this shield, because we cannot count on the United States for bloody nothing. Okay, I don't think the bases in Germany, in Ramstein, in Poland, whatever, I don't think they will serve us very much. And Vertigo is saying this here, right here in the chat. Thank you, my friend. He's talking about the importance of Finland and that Finland immediately sprung into action. And I understand that because due to historic reasons that we all know about it, at least I know about it. We learned about what happened to Finland between wars and in World War II, so I know what happened. Finland lost a significant part of their country to Russia. Let's not forget this. And I know about the war, and I know about how Finland stopped the Red Army. We all know this, okay? Because at least here in Europe, we study this. Okay, my younger nephew is now 20 and he studied this at school. The kids here, they study it at school. Okay? We need this. We need to have people like the Finnish that also, as Vertigo is saying here, is in charge of the European civilian protection and defense. Okay? All of these things are very important for us. And then he is also saying here, talking about how Finland, Ukraine, and Turkey are the largest armies in Europe. Hello, David Gerardo. Espero que esteja tudo bem contigo, ok? Now, before I continue with the video, okay, I won't be commenting while we are watching the video because I think it's important for us to listen to what is being said. Let's go back into this point. You have to understand that Europe now needs to have a strategic defense that goes beyond NATO, because we cannot rely on the Americans. And I think that in the future you will see more and more American assets being removed from Europe, because even economically, their economy is already shrinking. The Americans, for the first time in their history, they have produced more debt than they have produced income. And yes, I know, Vertigo. Sorry for interrupting my reasoning. You had to give land to Russia thanks to the UK and USA. Yes. And now they are trying to do the same for the Ukraine. Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right, okay? I studied this at school. I study this at school. Okay, every kid here when we talk about international history and what happened after World War II, we study all about this. Okay, just like we study the UK and all of this. And this is one of the reasons why, at least here, people are minimally educated, because education is essential. But as I was saying, we cannot depend on the United States. So we are going to have to find a solution to, number one, protect ourselves from the Russians, and number two, protect ourselves from the Americans, okay? Because we are going to go into a world where we either associate with other middle powers in order to have power, or we are going to get eaten up, okay? A Europe without the European Union will not work. And this is essential for people to understand. People need to understand once and for all that with all its defects, okay, with all its issues, we need the European Union to be strong, and we need the European Union to be minimally united. This does not mean to crush sovereignty, to crush the interests and the particular interests of each country. Pardon me, but this means to have a compromise. This means that I must give a bit of my interests, and the other European country has to give a bit of their interests. And this is something that we are going to need. Okay, in the next generations, this will be essential. Now, let's go back to watch the video. Okay, because I think it's important for us to see this. Okay, let's continue.
Or NATO member states is real. That is what our intelligence services are speaking. Poland is doing a very big job in strengthening both its own defense capabilities, but also strengthening defense of the whole Europe, because those frontier countries like Poland, their border is also European Union border. So, and what is also very important that with that loan, Poland is strengthening its defense industry. And this is our common goal in the whole Europe, really, to make our defense industries ready to produce what is needed in order to deter possibility of Russian aggression.
And we know that the Hungarian Prime Minister-to-be, Peter Magyar, is currently reassessing that country's defence loan application. How hopeful are you that this proposal will get over the line?
Well, that is what we agreed with new government of forthcoming government of Hungary. That is a normal practice. That such a big, responsibility, such a big obligation from the government side should be taken when the new government is established. And definitely they need to have some time to review the projects which were proposed by the previous government, by Viktor Orban government, and that's it's nothing unusual here. So definitely time is very important because we want that all the member states would be able to fully implement those loans till 2030. I mean, to have all the products produced. We know that our industries are ramping up their production, but still, we see the issue, and some governments are worried about that industries are not fast enough, to increase their production. So things are, demand very, very rapid actions. I'm very, very happy that we managed to achieve such an outcome agreements on all the package of the loans during less than a year time. So, and we hope that Hungary very soon also will join those who will use those loans for strengthening their defense.
And last question, are you confident that Europe's defence industries will move fast enough to meet the demands of the EU member states when it comes to producing those weapons that they're ordering?
Well, that is our, permanent, topic for discussions with the industries. I was, going through so-called missile tours through all the different producers of missiles, and we started again symbolically from Poland. And everyone was speaking about what still is needed to be done in order for our industries to ramp up, to produce more fast, to shift maybe from what industries are calling themselves haute couture production, very expensive, very technological advanced, but very expensive and slow to be produced, to more of good enough production. And we need to see very clearly what is our strategic challenge. Still, Russia is outproducing us, and quite heavily. So that is what worries us.
That was the EU's Defence Commissioner Andrius Kubilius speaking to our correspondent Angela Skujins. We're moving to the Middle East next. Direct talks between Israel and Lebanon are set to resume next week, but Israel and Hezbollah continue to exchange fire.
Okay, before we continue to the next part of the video, um, hello, Stephen. I hope everything is all right with you, my friend. With you and your Clara. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for dropping by and leaving a like. Thank you very much. Now, before we continue to the second part of the video that we would be talking about the Middle East, as you see, I was writing here in the chat. I don't think it's that much of a question of Russia outproducing us. It's more of a question that Russia, even with all the difficulties that they are having in terms of manpower, in terms of supplies, in terms of all the things that we need. Yes, and Vert, yes, I know that Ukraine and Finland are rearming other countries. I know that, okay? In the beginning of the war, even in the last years, even Portugal has been producing drones because we have been using them for quite some time now and sending them to Ukraine. And right now, around here in the universities and in other centers of aeronautic production, we are trying to develop ship solutions because we have a large coastal area, and we need to use drones instead of expensive jets that really don't do the job, okay? Because most of the times we have to resort to ships in the sea, and the submarines that we have, I think we have 4 submarines or something like that, to watch our own coast, because they are simply impractical. So in Portugal, in the future, we are going to need to use drones, okay? That's something that I don't think anyone can discuss. Now, as I was saying, I don't think this is so much of a question of Russia outproducing us. This is a question that Russia, it was already prepared for war. Maybe not well prepared, but it was prepared, okay? They have infrastructures, they have construction methods, they have supplies, okay? They have almost everything that they would need to construct these weapons. They are buying them from the Iranians, they are buying them from the North Koreans, they are buying them from China. Let's not beat around the bush, because that is the truth. And they already had this completely established. And now what do we need in Europe? Look, governments need to understand this. We need to build weapons. We need to build air defenses, okay? The air defenses in the capital of my country, they had not been upgraded for years, okay? For years, and this is ridiculous, okay? When I found out about that, I really thought to myself, what the hell, sorry, I swear, what the fuck are these people doing? Okay, it's ridiculous. Except for a couple of points in the city, you did not have proper defenses. The defenses were being done, so to speak, by jets. And this cannot be, okay? We need to have physical defenses on cities. We need to have all of this protection. We need to have drone squads. We need to have all of this, because this is the future, okay? The future is not it's not soldiers running across a field. Okay, that is not the future. The future is well-trained troops to intervene in an area. The future is those drone waves that just recently mechanical drones occupied a section of the front in the in Ukraine, and I think they captured around 1,000 Russian soldiers. Okay, so that is the future. Okay, that is the future, and why? Because you can build. I would not say millions, but you can build thousands of drones and use them in a tactic of war that we call flooding the front, which was exactly what, for example, the Russians did with their soldiers when they were fighting the Nazis. Okay, the Nazis, they had better weapons, even if they were low on supplies, but they had better weapons, they had better military tactics, and what did the Russians do? They sent in waves after waves after waves of soldiers that simply drowned the front. And after they broke that front, it was all just a question of continue to advance. And in a different way, I think this is what is happening right now in Ukraine. I think and I think this is why today, if you saw the May commemoration of Putin that only lasted 45 minutes or something like that, and without any tanks, because Putin was afraid of what would happen. And the truth is this: you could see in his face, he knows what is going to happen. Okay, he knows what is going to happen. He's not. Some people think he's stupid. He's not stupid. Okay, he simply underestimated his enemy, and now he's going to get crushed. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse for him as time passes by. The question here is, how do we end this? Because don't forget this: we want Russia weak enough for it not to invade us or attack us. But we don't want a Russia that is not strong enough to defend their eastern borders. Because if you go across the border of Russia, you will see all of those countries with growing populations as Russia decreases its populations with this shit. I have done a video about this. I talked about the latest demographic studies that suggest that in 20 years Russia, which today is allegedly, it has, allegedly 140 million people, it will be around 110 or 120 million people, because they are dying, okay, and they are not breeding enough, call it what you want. And they have 6 million people that have allegedly fled the country and that are not going to come back. But these are not other issues. But before we go into this part about the Middle East and we watch this video, I want to reiterate this. And as Verti was saying here, okay, I don't know if Portugal needs the same type of coastal defense, because you have to look, Verti. Portugal also has a lot of tradition of sea defense. Okay, I will never forget a moment when 20 years ago, using one of our old submarines in NATO exercises, Portugal sank 2 American nuclear submarines. So there's a lot of technical expertise behind this, okay? And Portugal is also we are also experts in urban warfare, in guerrilla warfare, okay? Our armies were never armies of conquest. Our armies were always armies that were used to wear out enemies, to disrupt enemies, like the French and Napoleon would tell you if they were here. Okay, they invaded Portugal 3 times. The British defended our capital, and our soldiers went around went around their lines, okay, and they simply rained terror over the French lines. I have people in my family, though, you know, from on my father's side, that were part. And imagine the irony, that were part French and part German. That when they invaded in the north part of the Alentejo, they went around. They were amongst those warriors. Let's call it like this. That they waited for the French to pass, and as they passed, people burned the cities and burned the fields so the French would not have anything to use in the land, and they would run. Okay, the civilians, and then these people they stayed behind. They stayed behind, and then they picked all of the French. So much so that Napoleon, when he came in for a third time, and he sent his best general, I think it was Junot, he simply gave up because there was no. So I don't know if Portugal needs a type of defense as Finland has. What I will tell you is this: we here in Portugal, we use what works, meaning we have no shame in, for example, we knew that the Brazilian-made troop transport planes were better than the ones that we were using, and we bought them. Okay, this is one of the examples. We have no shame about it. Okay, we are the type of people that we are very adaptable, and that is, in my view, one of our greatest strengths. We are adaptable. Okay, we adapt to things, we adapt to events, and that is one of our strengths, at least in my opinion. Now, let's continue to watch the video, okay, and then we'll talk a bit more.
With at least 380 people killed since the fragile ceasefire took effect in April. This week, Israel also struck Lebanon's capital of Beirut for the first time since the start of that ceasefire. We're now joined live by Nadim Gemayel, a Lebanese parliamentarian for the Kataeb Party. Good morning, sir. Good to have you with us. Can I start by asking you, is it fair to say now that the ceasefire has completely collapsed, and what does that mean for these talks between Lebanon and Israel?
So let's start by saying that there was no real ceasefire during this last 2 weeks, because effectively small butter and skirmish were continuing between Israel and Hezbollah in the south of Lebanon. And of course, what happened yesterday in Dahye was like a proof that the ceasefire is very, very, very shallow. Now, just to put things into perspective, we need to ensure that there is no. We are not in a war between Lebanon and Israel. The real problem is between Hezbollah and Israel, between Iran and the West, including the United States and Israel, and we are paying the price as Lebanese people.
Indeed. I will ask you about Hezbollah in just a moment, but I want to ask you about the Israeli side first, because we know the situation in the south, demolitions, shellings continue. Is that acceptable?
This is, of course, not acceptable, but this is at the same time, we need to find a final solution, and this final solution reside on the fact that we had in our south militias and military organization that are outside the state, that are outside the organization of the state, and who took Lebanon and the territory of Lebanon and the sovereignty of Lebanon as hostages and into a war that the Lebanese people didn't want. So today what we're asking is to have one army, one decision, and one authority that take all the decision on the ground.
The major obstacle to that is, of course, Hezbollah. They are the warring party, as you said, not Lebanon. But how can the Lebanese authorities now fulfill its commitment to disarming Hezbollah when the group refuses to do so, and also when Hezbollah as a political movement still holds sway over parts of the population?
This requires a lot of will. It requires a lot of courage, and it requires a decision from the head of the state in order to impose their authority and their presence. Today, the state is nearly unpresent. It declared it. We are a country with a flag, but without a state. And today, what we want effectively is that this state be present, be effective, and has the authority to take all the decision. We know that will not take, it will not happen overnight. This will happen on a long path, but we need to start it, and the state needs to approve, and the state needs to be existent. That's
Okay.
what we're asking today from the government of Lebanon.
Okay, Nadim Gemayel, thank you so much for your time and for joining us on Europe Today this morning. Now, as Europe grapples with another...
Let's interrupt right here and let's continue to talk about it. Okay, now we could spend our entire night here talking about why this is happening, and we have to go back. Why are these Hezbollah warriors, or whatever you want to call them, soldiers, or I don't want to call them terrorists because I don't think that is the proper name for them. Why are they in Lebanon? Okay, they are in Lebanon because Israel occupied their land and expelled them. And this is something people simply do not talk about. Okay, I have made in a past video, in past streams, I have talked about this, and I will repeat what I said before. If you do not support Israel and what they are doing, you are not an anti-Semite. Okay, you are a normal person. This started in 1946. This started because no one knew what to do with the Jews of Europe. Okay, let me just correct. Yes, Stephen Banker is absolutely correct. Okay, I have been corrected when I say this, and we have to be careful when we say this because, look, I understand what he is saying. Okay, please, the UK is not a country; it's a union. Okay, and let's not confuse the way that a person from England, when they are not decent acts, and how a Scottish person or a Welsh person or an Irish person acts. The United Kingdom is a union. Reason why it's called United Kingdom. Okay, but that's it. What Israel is doing is they are using this excuse of having people that don't like them across the border, and that they are clearly working with Iran because Iran supports them with weapons, with logistics, with training, with all of that, and we know perfectly well why. I'm not going to go back into that old in that can of worms because we have talked about this. We have talked about how the United Kingdom and how the United States installed the Shah in Iran in order to continue to siphon the oil and the resources of the country because the Republican government that had been elected legally wanted to nationalize the oil production in the country. We don't need to go back in that. Okay, we don't need to go back into saying and talking about this, how people, when the Shah began to act as an autocrat and disappearing people, assassinating people, okay, jailing people, torturing people. When he started to do all of that things, while girls could wear European clothes and go to the disco and dance and wear bikinis and all of that shit, okay, while that was happening, people were getting killed, and people they did what they do in Persia or Iran. Iran, it's the name of the country now. People in Iran did what people do all over the world. They grabbed on to the things that they know. In this case, religion. And a guy that told them, I will make things better again. And pop, you have the Islamic Revolution. Okay? But let's not go into it. Israel here is blackmailing the Lebanese government. And they are probably telling them, look, let us do this, we are going to clean up this of all the Palestinians, and then you can regain control of this land. But what I'm afraid of is going to happen is that they are going to occupy these lands, okay? They were already in the Golan Hills, and now they are simply going to continue. Oh no, Stephen, please, my friend, no. I know it was not with malice. No issues. Israel is not going to want to leave this piece of land that they are occupying. Okay? Because these people, you know, the Third Temple legend, this entire nationalist, Zionist ideas that are circulating in Israel and that are dominating the party of Netanyahu and all of this, okay, and the fear of Netanyahu of being arrested and trial for corruption and all of this. This is not going to stop this soon. And what I am afraid of is that this is not going to stop, okay? Even if tomorrow, for whatever reasons, the United States retreats from the Straits, and I know, and I am almost certain they will have to retreat from the Straits. I'm almost certain that they are going to lose most of their military bases in the Middle East. This is going to happen. Even after all of that happens, Israel is not going to give up on these lands, okay? They are still killing people in Gaza. So far, I think it was almost 900 people that have been killed. They continue to try to expel the Palestinians. They want to occupy that land. They want to expel everyone, okay? And this will continue until the Israeli people themselves stop it. The only people that can stop this are the Israeli people. And to tell you the truth, I don't see a majority of them wanting this to end. But look, what we need to do is precisely what Verticu said here. Israel needs to be isolated completely, and Netanyahu must be arrested. As for Netanyahu being arrested, I'm not that sure. But isolating Israel, yes, we need to do it, okay? And I am angry at our politicians here in Europe trying to continue with this conciliatory reason. And I will tell you this, me as a half German, with all of the politic and social trauma that this entails, I'll tell you this. Israel is acting like the Nazi party. They are doing the same thing. They are committing genocide. They are committing crimes. And this has to stop. I would never call for the end of Israel. I don't think that's correct. Okay? I don't think that's the path. But Israel needs to accept the two-state solution and to start to make to start to try to create bonds in the region in order to stop this. Okay? Just look at something as simple as football. Israel does not play in the football leagues of their region. They play in Europe. They come to Eurovision. Okay? And this is ridiculous. Okay? This is ridiculous. They need to create bonds in their own region. They need to reach out to the Palestinians and try to make a commitment of peace and be honest about it. Okay? Because people can forgive anything. But how are they going to forgive the thousands that have been killed in all of this thing in Gaza? Okay, someone needs to pay for this. The people that started this entire process need to come to terms with justice. And I'm talking also about the Hezbollah people that kidnapped all of those people from that festival or musical festival or whatever. I'm talking about them too. And it would be much easier if there was some kind of dialogue between Israel and Iran. Okay, but no one is seeing that. Okay, Iran is also not seeing that. But I think that after all of this mess is over, with the orange man sitting on the streets, after all of this happened, things will probably change. Now, let's continue to watch the video.
The energy crisis in the wake of the Iran war, major questions are being asked about the future direction of the European Union. Our correspondent Stefan Grobe sat down with the EU's climate chief Wopke Hoekstra and asked him whether the EU could weather the storm.
If I look at the huge number of problems that we have on our plate that are in many ways global by nature, climate change, geopolitics, the ramifications of AI, and so on. These are all things that ask for more collaboration, more cooperation, more unity, and more Europe. So that, in my view, is the way forward. What it does ask from us is the tools and also the speed to deliver this at scale. And there, I think we have homework to do.
In what sense, homework?
I mean, if you look at the speed with which events are being pushed on our plate, and you think about our infrastructure in Europe, where quite often it's a bit at the member states level, it is a bit at the European level, it asks for coordination, and we're not necessarily always very quick in delivering. Occasionally we manage to make use of a crisis and we push things forward, but overall our design is too much geared for good weather. We're not in good weather. We're in exceptionally bad weather, and that will continue. So that asks for a different approach.
On that note, do you think that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have done a lot to unify the continent here?
Well, I mean, it's and again, let's separate the two. What is crystal clear is that Putin continues with his absolutely horrific war in Ukraine, and we have a huge incentive that in the end this ends with a bloody nose for him, and he is wanted in The Hague. As for the Americans, I think I'm worried about the damage that has been done to the relationship, to the marriage, and in my view, we need to follow let's say a two-track strategy. On the one hand, there is a lot that unites us, and there is an incentive, and there are clear interests here at hand that make it important that we continue with our American friends. That's one. At the same time, it is true that the commitment displayed by the Americans themselves is not what it always was before. So we have no alternative than to grow up and do more of this stuff ourselves, to get much more savvy in the domain of geopolitics, and by the way, build broader partnerships with our partners ranging from Canada to Japan to a whole range of others.
And you can catch the full interview with Commissioner Hoekstra at 11:30 Brussels time this morning on Euronews. Moving on now, this week the Italian
Sorry, folks, I sometimes take a bit more to do this. Verti, Hoekstra, he is a European commissioner. Okay, he's the European Commission Climate Commissioner. Okay, he's not Canadian. All right. Okay, let's continue now. This point that the commissioner was making, it's very important, okay, because we have in Europe we have a lot of resources and a lot of people studying things like AI, advanced weaponry and all of that, but we are still at the level that we cooperate in projects. So you will find, for example, that Portuguese universities will have some kind of cooperation with universities, I don't know, in Spain, in France, in Germany, in the Baltics, whatever. But you don't have a centralized effort. We have a couple of entities that subsidize and regulate these things, but I think we need some kind of centralized agency, okay? I think we need someone to coordinate all of this. And this is very important for the future of the research in the European Union itself. This is why when Brexit happened, there were issues in Europe, okay? Let's not beat around the bush. Uh, Thank you, Stephen. Glad that you came here, okay? Say hello to Clara for me, okay? Give us some treats from me. Cheers, my friend. Now, this is why I think it's very important for us to have some kind of centralized mechanism, okay, to coordinate all of this. And look, I'm not saying that countries should stop what they are doing right now, okay? No, there are some great projects here in Portugal. I've seen a couple of them, like developing electric cars that are run on. Yes, yes, Verti. This guy, I don't know what is his nationality, but I think it's from the. I don't know if he's from the Baltics, but he is a European commissioner. Okay, I have heard him before, and I like to listen to the guy. He seems like a very smart person. Okay, now, as I was saying, it's very important for us, I don't know, to have, for example, something as for example, an entity in a European central capital that would coordinate efforts. For example, the arms industry could go to them and tell them, look, we need to develop a better drone to do this or do that. What is your opinion on this? How can we make it better? And then that central unit would contact the different European universities and entities and even private contractors all over Europe, and tell them, look, we have this problem, okay? A week, present us what you have about this. How can we make this better? And this would make things much easier, okay? This is not about canceling what happens already in Europe. And as I was saying before, I forgot. Sorry, I do rant, folks. This is why when the United Kingdom left, and there were a couple of institutions in terms of military and scientific research in the United Kingdom that were very important for Europe. This is why for at least a year there was a vacuum in this. Okay, there was a kind of a vacuum here. Bye, David Jurado. Thank you for coming, my friend. I will not go. I will just see this video because as always, I have lost myself in my rant. So I'm going to be ending this one. But I will make another stream tomorrow during the day. Okay. But if I do it, I will post. I will post something in and talk about and announce it. Okay, because it's still depending on a couple of things that I want to get ready. Now, as I was saying, when the United Kingdom left, Europe really felt this because we centralized a lot of research in mature universities in the United Kingdom. And after that, okay, we had to do it, okay? Yes, we had to do it, okay? So a lot of universities in Europe, just like in the financial system, just like in all of that, they took over what was once a role that was adopted by the United Kingdom for historic and scientific reasons in the European Union. So much so that now they are trying to regain a bit of that, but or for different reasons. And I made a video about what I think this entire reform wave in the United Kingdom means. Okay, for different reasons, they are not going to get it back, because right now it's separated across Europe. This all of these researchers, all of these enterprises, and we do need a central entity. Okay, this is very clear, and I hope that they see this and implement it as quickly as possible. Okay, because we can't wait. Because right now you have, for example, I know this for a fact, we have a lot of drone investigation here in Portugal. Okay, they are testing models, they are doing things. Okay, I even know where is where a factory here is where they do it. They are testing a lot of things, but then you lack that output to a mature industry to produce it. And my solution to this issue is as simple as this. If there are not the means in a particular European country to take advantage of this technology and produce things, the solution is to have a central entity that will say, for example, Portugal has developed this excellent new drone that might give us an advantage over, I don't know, Iran, over China, whatever, okay? It doesn't matter. A good idea. But they don't have enough manpower or a mature industry to produce it. In my mind, there would be absolutely no issue in, for example, a factory in Poland, this is an example, to produce those drones. Okay, and we will. And as for I don't know, if we start to sell them to other countries, like Ukraine is doing right now to the Gulf states and all of that, we can then split the bill, so to speak. Okay, in terms of compensation, it can, for example, it can even revert all of that money. It can even revert for the central entity itself, for them to reinvest in more investigation and in more production. Because this is the way we need to start to think here in Europe. We need to start to think in a, how would I call it, in a synergy of efforts. If we start to think in terms of a synergy of efforts, okay, we will keep our sovereignty, which is something very important. Okay, if it's important to me, it's also important to a Finnish person, it's also important to an Italian person, it's also important to a French person. You understand what I'm trying to tell. This is very important. Okay, but we also need to understand that we are at a disadvantage before the United States or Russia or China, because these are unified blocks. Okay, for example, a president in the United States, this is an example, there is a new weapon that needs to be developed. He goes to the military complex, industrial complex, and says, we need to produce this, and it's produced. Okay, and this is something that we need here. We need that central entity to, for example, say the example I was telling you about before. Portugal has this idea. It's an excellent project, but they need someone to produce it. So the factory, I don't know, XYZ in Poland, you are going to produce this drone. Here are the technical expertise. Okay, here are the Portuguese expert is going to go to Poland. He's going to show you in practice how you're going to do it. Is going to make sure that the quality is adequate, and you are going to produce this. It's as simple as this, okay? And when it's vertical, when we talk about armies, then everything is based in the training of the troops. Drone war demands that soldiers have to have their basic training on excellent level. With bad level training, all the troops are sitting ducks. Yes, 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 very corrected. Yes, very correct. I don't know that much about the Finnish licensing model. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about it because I looked into it. Okay, to make this stream, but I did not went deep into it. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about it. Okay, my friend. Sorry, but as I was saying, it's very important to have this central unit. Okay, and in a way, okay. Pardon. In a way, we already had this in Europe, okay? Via the Commission, via the different entities, but we just need to make it quicker. And to make it quicker in that area, we need to have this central unit, the central entity, to coordinate all of this. Okay? And if people are so worried about the way that this is going to work, okay, each country can even elect someone to represent them in that entity, okay, so that we will make sure that no one takes advantage of anyone, okay. But we do need to have this, and we do need to move up, okay. And this is one of the things that worries me, okay, with the development of AI, with the development of more sophisticated military models. We need to have this, okay. We need, just like we need to have armies in Europe that work together, not necessary a European army, but an army that works together. We need to have this. Let me just read this comment, and then we are going to proceed with the video. Yes, the idea is that we build factories, train the workers, and give the whole tech transfer. You must be able to build and maintain the weapons in the battlefield condition. Yes, look, this is perfectly acceptable, my friend. The problem is when you don't have enough manpower. For example, here in Portugal, you have people that are highly specialized in their work. You have excellent engineers. You have excellent manual workers, okay? People working with metals, with electricity, with technology, with all of that. The problem is we have too few. So much so that lately, in order to have enough staff for our development, because our harbors have been developing very quickly, and our manufacturer is also developing very quickly, we needed to take in immigration, especially from South America. Okay, we needed to do this because we simply do not have enough people for the projects that we have. Now, imagine that we can have all of this know-how, we can study it, we can produce it, so to speak, in our universities, in our businesses, and then elsewhere, where you, for example, you have a higher number of workers, like Poland. I gave this example, okay, but you can say Romania, you can say Czechia, you can say Slovakia, okay, you can say Germany, you can say France. It doesn't matter, okay, you can say Spain. It doesn't matter. But if we can grab this know-how, okay, and build it somewhere else in Europe via a central entity that will make sure all of this is done in a clear way, because it's essential to have clear rules, it's essential to have clear process. If we can do this, this is a way of cutting this need. Because look, we are going to be confronted with a reality in 1 or 2 decades, we are going to have machines replacing these people, and they are going to still be here. People don't think about these things. I think about these things because people are people to me. I don't care if they are immigrants. I don't care whoever they are. They are people. They deserve to be respected. They need to have a job. And if we are taking these people in, we are going to have also to worry about them in the future, just like we worry about our people. Okay, and this is something that worries me because I have seen in history other trends in which this type of situation created issues. So it's more than integrate people into our society, which is very needed. It's also thinking about the future that is going to come. Okay, 30. Maybe that works in Finland, okay, but I don't see it working here, my friend. This is the only thing that I'm telling you, okay? I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm just saying that with the type of economy that we have here, for example, it will not work. But now, folks, I want to finish this video before we end the stream, okay? So let's finish up listening to the video, and then we'll talk a bit more in the chat. Okay, give me a minute. Sorry, technical difficulties.
And Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni shared an AI fabricated image of herself in underwear that was spreading virally online, warning people against the dangers of deepfake nudes. The EU institutions in Brussels are also taking action to crack down on AI generated sexualized images, as Jakub Janis explains.
It's no secret that AI is everywhere. And this week, Italy was in an uproar over AI-generated nude photos of Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. And in a bold move, she published the image herself on social media as a stark warning. If it can happen to a Prime Minister, it can happen to anyone. And this personal attack has fueled an urgent discussion in Brussels on how to stop nudification and protect citizens. So what's the plan? Yesterday, the EU reached a deal to ban nudification apps, so the very tools used to generate non-consensual sexually explicit photos and videos. And this is a vital step because while politicians can fight back, most victims lack the resources to defend themselves. And this ban is a part of a broader update to the AI Act, so the EU's rulebook for artificial intelligence, and was designed to simplify the original rules and make them more innovation-friendly for growing businesses. And usually EU law moves slowly, but Brussels has put this issue on a priority fast track. And the specific ban on nudification apps is expected to be fully enforceable across the Union by December this year. Alright, but what if you become a victim today? For now, you can use existing national privacy laws to insist that fake content is removed, especially after the GDPR rules. And since your image is your personal data, you have a legal right to erasure. A practical way to force platforms to hit the delete button immediately. And we know this all too well at Euronews. Our stories and journalists have been targeted by AI fakes, with voices manipulated and images stolen by coordinated disinformation campaigns, or even outlets like Russia Today. And we always report these cases, so if you happen to find a deepfake of yourself, you should not wait and report it too.
Jakub Janis there. And that's it from us for today and for this week. Thank you so much for starting your day with Europe Today. Maeve McMahon will be back in this seat here on Monday. Remember to tune in then. And in the meantime, have a great weekend.
Et notamment comme elles sont habillées.
Sorry about that. Technical issues. Now, this last news is also very interesting. Okay, I think this part of the technology, it will be one of the battles of the future, as I wrote in the chat. Because you see, oops, sorry, sorry, technical issues, and I am back. I will ask you if I need more. I will ask you if I need more information, Vertical. Thank you. I will. Yes, my friend. I will ask you if I need. And I am someone that is always willing to learn. Okay? But this part of the AI technology, is something that we need to make absolutely clear. A person's image is their one. Okay? For example, in Portuguese law, it is protected, and using someone's image without any kind of the or any kind of the image of someone, it's a crime. Okay, so people should be wary, at least here in Portugal, if they do that. But I know that in other European countries the law is not as restrictive. For example, here, if you go to a courthouse, imagine this, and you have to identify yourselves with your identification card. The person that is taking your info, even if they are identifying you in their work, because it's needed, because it's mandatory by law, they have to tell you why they are doing it. Hello, Exotic Doll. Thank you for coming here. Yes, I know. I made a video about that, and I'm going to publish it. I'm going to publish it today, but it will probably come out tomorrow. Okay. But as I was saying, this part of the AI, I think it's something that we have to insist. Okay. I don't care about American tech companies and media companies. I don't care about any of that. What I do care about is for us to protect, okay, to protect the image of each and every one of our citizens. Look, I'm not that type of guy that demands IDs online and all of that, because I think there has to be some kind of privacy, and that our government should not mess into certain things. But when it comes to these types of things, for example, using an AI app and all of that, I think a centralized identification system is needed, because we need to see what people are doing, and we need to punish this type of attitudes. Okay, and that is all I will say about that. Okay, I'm going to make a video, and I'm going to talk about these things, but I have to investigate it a bit more. Now, folks, just saying that, as I was saying during the stream, tomorrow, probably midday, I will try to make another stream, because I have to take advantage of the weekend, because during the week sometimes I'm really too tired to go on on online, okay, and just make streams and videos and all of it. It's sometimes a bit hard. I'm trying, I this is my hobby, okay. I try to make videos, I try to help people, I try to help people to think. And today I decided to make this video, especially to show someone from the United States how a normal news, how a normal news here in Europe processes itself. Okay, I want you to see the way that they report things, the way that is a way that is clearer, a way that is less cumbersome, and you know, I'm trying to do it. Are you already using Fluxer instead of the Discord? I'm not even using Discord, Verti. Okay, I registered myself. I have a domain there. I have an account, but I simply look. I simply have not had the time, enough time to do it. And I know you would say, well, but you can always find some time to do it or whatever. But the problem here is that I'm not just doing this. Okay, I'm not just doing this channel. I'm also trying to prepare a channel that will be exclusively about history. I'm trying to divide my channel, that I still have my music in this channel. I'm trying to make a separated video from it. And sometimes, look, I don't have time. But Fluxer, okay, I will look into it. Exactly that. Thank you. I'm trying, okay? I'm trying. You know, how can I explain this? Look, this channel, it was born out of a personal need that I have to talk with people. This is why I always make that analogy of I'm a guy sitting in a coffee table right here in Portugal. You are sitting across from me, and we are having a chat. We are talking. Because I feel like this is something that has been forgotten by a lot of people, and that sometimes you can solve a problem by simply talking with people. Because we can be so different from each other. Okay? You can be very different from me. You can have different opinions from me. But if we meet and if we talk, especially how things are done here, okay, when you want to solve a problem, you sit down with someone at a table, sometimes you eat and you drink, and you talk. And this is how issues are solved. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, okay, it's a much better way of ending a conflict than to simply enter into discussions and other types of stupid things, okay? Half the problems that are happening in this world would be solved at the table. But of course, we know that in order for you to do that, you need to have common sense in both parties, okay? I need to be willing to accept your position. I need to be willing to hear you, to listen to what you are saying, and you need to do the same thing for me. And look, and this does not mean necessarily, okay, that we will agree with everything. As I said in the past, in other videos, this is why Americans don't understand the way democracy works here, because they don't have it. I'm sorry to say this, okay, but this is what I feel like, okay? Americans don't have democracy. When they see people arguing in the parliaments here, when they see governments fall, they think this is confusion. But it's not. It's a sign democracy is working exactly as it should. And democracy has its issues. Yes, it has its issues. We are seeing this in the world today. But it's the best way that we have to bring social peace and minimal rights to people. And I will always, like the British say, I think, I will die in this speech. Okay? Democracy works. And there are things that we need to learn to cope with. Okay? People need to understand anyone, okay? People need to understand anyone can be different from you. but that you can actually reach an understanding with someone that is completely different from you. This is why when people start to talk about gender rights, migrant rights, and all of that, I say this: listen to everyone. Okay, uh, exotic doll. I know who Rupert Lowe is. Okay, I know who Advanced UK are. Okay, we also have those types of people here. I know who he is. Yes, but I promise you, I will look into it. Okay, I promise you. Now, folks, I'm going to end this stream. It was a bit impromptu, but I decided to make this stream today for a number of reasons. Number one, I'm here. Number one, I'm here trying to get more comfortable with this, because you have to understand this is not easy for me either. Okay, I know you think it's very easy for this guy to just sit here and rant. Well, number one, English is not my first language. Okay, my first languages, even though I speak much more than a language, okay, my first languages are Portuguese and German. So I do these streams to get more comfortable with the spoken English word, to get more practice in it, okay, and to start to talk in a way that it's a bit easy for other people to understand. Okay, I'm even trying to cut in my accent, because I know sometimes I break into it a bit. And I'm also doing these streams, like I said in the beginning, to show people, especially if you are someone that is sitting in America and you are trying to get a grip on what is happening around you and in the world, to see there are different ways, that there are different ideas, and that here in Europe, people don't hate you. People hate what your government is doing, and people hate what you represent. I have talked about this in another video. I will just mention this briefly here. After World War II, Europe was put into a dependency relationship with the United States in the Western world and with Russia or USSR in the Eastern Europe. And this benefit everyone. Trump and Putin are the representatives of that way of thinking, to divide Europe, to control Europe. Okay? And this is something, like I said, I will die on this speech. This is something we cannot accept. We don't want that. We want Europe to be strong. We don't want to conquer anyone. We want to conquer our own space. And we want to bring me and people that think like me, that luckily we are still a majority here in Europe. We want to bring a better world for everyone. We want to show people that democracy works, because it works. Democracy works. With all of these issues, it works. Things like the model that you have in the United States and in the United Kingdom, in the Union of the United Kingdom, they don't work. You are seeing the faults. You saw it with Brexit. You saw it now with the rise of reform in the United Kingdom. You see it with Trump in the United States. These models, they don't work. You see what happened to Russia. Russia was briefly more or less a democracy, and then they fell into that we need a strong person to take care of things, and that strong person now has become the abuser that has you locked inside of the house and that is beating you constantly. Just like the Americans with Trump. And just like what Trump is doing to the entire world. He's completely destroying the United States economy. He's completely destroying the relationships between countries. And as I'm going to talk about tomorrow, because I'm waiting for a reaction of the European Union, he has just thanked the economic agreement between the United States and Europe that was barely an agreement, okay? And Europe agreed with it because we really don't care if they put tariffs on our products, okay? Because the the American people are paying for those tariffs. It's not us. But we are in this situation right now in the Straits of Hormuz because of, as the commissioner, as Ursula von der Leyen said, because we are not energetically independent, so we need to do something about it, and because of this relationship of dependency with the United States. And this, my dear Americans, this is why we have to stop it. And yes, Vertical, I know we have all of those agreements. I know that, okay? And those agreements are very important. But now we need to grow this movement even more. And I will tell this to the Americans. In the future, you Americans will thank us for doing this. Okay, because you in the Americas, in the United States, you also have an economical model that cannot work. Well, it's I had no idea of the scope, of the vastness of the issues in the United States until I started caring about it, and I started to watch multiple sources of information, and I started to see homeless encampments, homeless cities, people living in their cars, people having a GoFundMe for medical procedures. And look, my friends, I will tell you this: my health system is not perfect. Okay, it has delays, it has issues, but it does work. And last year, when I was sick, and I was not very good, okay, I talked briefly about it here in this channel with you guys and girls and aliens. Everyone is welcome, okay? And my health system, my NHS, it was there for me, okay? I was cared for. I went into the hospital. People treated me with decency. People treated me with care. Okay? It was there for me. Not wanting to talk much about it, I talked a bit about it, but I will just say this. I had a blood infection, okay? Because of an insect sting. I nearly died. When I arrived at the hospital, my blood pressure was so out of touch that the doctors were looking at me, and this was a woman, a doctor. She looked at me and she said, "How are you still standing?" Okay? And they were there for me. They controlled it. Okay? I'm still recuperating from some of the issues that are related also to the fact that I am overweight right now. I am overweight right now. I have always been a very heavy set person. I'm not very tall, but I'm very wide. Okay, I worked in violent jobs, so to speak, physically violent jobs when I was younger, until my late 20s. So I developed a large muscular body, if you want to call it like this, very heavy. I practiced martial arts, and then I started to do desk jobs, and I simply stopped it. Okay, and this is also contributing to my poor health. But I'm recuperating. But what I'm trying to tell you, Americans, is that with all of these issues, we have all of this. We pay taxes, my friends. We pay high taxes, okay? But the food that we eat, that we buy at the supermarket, just before starting this stream, okay, around 6:30. I went into the supermarket. I went in to buy a couple of things. Okay, I bought 2 hamburgers to grill with some veggies, and those hamburgers, that meal, it was around €2 and 50. Okay, for meat, perfectly just meat. Okay, no filling, no shit. From the Azores Islands, I just went into the supermarket and I bought it at my local Lidl. Okay, and I bought a couple of veggies, and it was affordable. Is it more expensive? Yes, of course it's more expensive because Mr. Trump is doing all that shit in the Straits of Hormuz, and in here, and here we are suffering the effects of it too. But I think, look, I think America, you really need to think about where you are going, because if you continue with this type of mentality, I don't see anything good for your country. Now, let me just check in the chat. Look, I will go with that guy, with Michael. Michael is saying that he thinks that reform will never be government. Okay, I think they will never. I think they are going to act so incompetent with all of this, with the councils that they have conquered, so to speak, that people will not vote for them. But who knows? Americans, sorry, Americans. The British are stupid enough to vote for them. What is exactly does? Reform has a huge donor base in Thailand. Yes, I heard that. Christopher Hartman. Correct. Correct. Your family is driving you crazy, Vertigo. Well, that's family for you. Now, first of all, to the visible people, Vertigo, Exotic Doll, and Steven. He was here too. Yes, of course he was. I would like to thank you all for coming. Okay. Uh, I like that you come into the chat and that you interact with each other and with me. This helps me to get better with this. Okay, I'm still solving these technical issues. I'm still learning. Okay, but it's always a pleasure to talk with you. I want to make a stream a little more down the road, so to speak. I want to make a stream with questions and answers where I will propose that you make me ask me things, and I will look into it with you on live this way, okay? So that you can see that I'm not AI, okay? But folks, thank you very much for this. Thank you very much for coming here. I'm seeing here 20 plus 20 plus views. Okay, this is excellent. This is very good. Okay, I thank you very much. Any of you that are listening to me and that wasted your time to be here, I thank you very much, folks. Thank you all for coming. Have a great weekend. I will announce if I go live tomorrow, Sunday. Okay, let me just, oops, there we go. Okay, folks, Vertigo, be patient with your family, okay? Family is family, you know. Now, folks, thank you all for coming. I hope to catch you all in the next one, and stay safe out there, okay? Even if you are in America, like Some of you say, keep the faith, okay? It can't rain all the time, and stay safe, okay? Folks, once again, thank you all for coming, and I hope to catch you all in the next one, and bye. See ya.